September 2024, an old Chinese lady passed away in her home in the United States. After her death, her family declined all friends and relatives from attending her funeral. After all, she's not just any old Chinese lady. Her name is Song Binbin, and today I'm going to share with you her story. In 1966, Chairman Mao launched the Cultural Revolution. August 16 that year, Chairman Mao met with over 1 million Red Guards in Tiananmen Square for the first time. During this event, Lady Song, as the representative of the Red Guards, rushed up to the Tiananmen Tower and placed a red armband on Chairman Mao's arm, with Red Guard written on it. The word Red Guard became famous throughout China ever since, and this joint photo between Chairman Mao and Lady Song became the symbol representing the beginning of the Cultural Revolution in China. Lady Song was the daughter of a famous Chinese general, a member of the Chinese Political Bureau, a high-ranking position in the Communist Party of China. His daughter, Lady Song, was a third-grade student in a local Beijing girls-only high school, locating just 1 kilometer away from Tiananmen Square. You can consider this to be a royalty high school, since after the founding of the country in 1949, many famous Chinese leaders' daughters went to this school, including Chairman Mao's own two daughters, Liu Shaoqi's daughter, and also Deng Xiaoping's daughter as well. There were statistics showing that there were 6 marshals' daughters and 12 vice prime ministers' daughters went to that high school. This high school was extremely famous during the Cultural Revolution because of 2 major events, and both of them are related to Lady Song. First major event was the one I just mentioned, Lady Song placing an armband on Chairman Mao's arm. According to Lady Song's own memory, the event was somewhat of a coincidence. Mao made a random request to let a few dozen students to join him, so Lady Song and 40 other students were chosen to go up to Tiananmen Tower. At that time, the Red Guards from all over the country had no organization or fixed name, so the students in this girls' high school came up with the name Red Guards, put together using Mao's own choreography. The story goes like this. While these students were able to put this armband on other Communist Party leaders, Chairman Mao, however, was surrounded by bodyguards and difficult to reach. 红卫兵吧都特别激动，纷纷的去给党和国家领导人戴红袖章。有一个人问我说：“哎，彬彬，你干嘛不给主席去戴个袖章呢？” So they came up with an idea. 3 boys will rush out there and hug 2 of the bodyguards, while the small and nimble Lady Song can slip through and place the armband on Chairman Mao. It worked. This seemingly casual exchange started Beijing's Bloody August. Over the next few months, these innocent, harmless students started to go around the cities, breaking in doors and windows, crippling the city's education system, public security system, and judicial system. And incomplete statistics show that there are dozens of people in the Beijing education system alone who were beaten to death. That was significant underestimation of the deaths because just Beijing University alone recorded over a few dozen deaths among their faculty members. The second major event happened 2 weeks before August 18th in this very same high school. At that time, the vice principal of the high school was Lady Bian. Beginning of the Cultural Revolution, these children of the high-ranking government officials were the first one to hear the news that Chairman Mao wanted to mobilize these students. So these young high school students rise up to the challenge, criticizing and denouncing their school teachers and principals. On August the 5th, Vice President Lady Bian was forced to do hard labor by her own students. After collapsing due to exhaustion, the students dragged her to the corridor and beaten her to death with spiked clubs.
There are many bloody wounds on my mother's scalp. There were also wounds on her right arm. Her entire face was swollen. My father and I went into another room later, and we just held each other and cried.
Witnesses said that she was brutally beaten with spiked wooden clubs and stood legs, forced to kneel, forced to carry soil. When she couldn't carry it, they beat her head and upper body with clubs. Later, she was sent to clean toilets. When she reached the third step of the stairs, she collapsed on the dormitory staircase, losing control of her bladder.
It was truly tragic. Her husband Wang worked at the Institute of History at the Chinese Academy of Social Science. The day after her wife died, he brought a camera. He took a photo of her dead wife's body. In the crematory, he took another photo of his 4 daughters surrounding their mother's body. Her husband even kept the bloody clothing she wore that day.
These were holes on her body. They were bloody, and in her mouth as well.
This is a permanent scar not just to her husband, but to the high school as well. After the end of the Cultural Revolution, an investigation was conducted revealing that Deng Xiaoping's daughter Deng Rong and Liu Shaoqi's daughter Liu Tingting were directly involved in the beating of Principal Bian. Many of these culprits chose to remain silent for the rest of their life, including Deng Xiaoping's own daughter. They didn't just memory black coat their involvement in the beating, but chose to forget the entire Cultural Revolution altogether. Lady Song insists that she did not participate in the beating herself, but many people point finger at her since she was the deputy commander at the school. That day when Principal Bian was rushed to the hospital, she was one of the 8 students who placed her signature on the hospital's record. The Cultural Revolution ended with the death of Mao, and then also an internal party coup, followed by the arrest of the Gang of Four. It was said that after the senior members of the Communist Party returned to power, Deng Xiaoping initially wanted death penalty of Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, who was involved in Deng Xiaoping's own prosecution, among many other senior party members. However, another party leader, Chen Yun, stopped him, saying that this is an internal party struggle. We cannot set this kind of bad example for our future generation. We must learn to forgive, or else it will lead to revenge and future escalation, and it will never end. There were many government-led reconciliation, reflection, and criticism after the Cultural Revolution. But there's a clear boundary. that these criticisms cannot be directed at the ruling legitimacy of the Communist Party of China. You can only attribute the blame to a small group of people within the party who mistakenly launched the Cultural Revolution. Today, the Cultural Revolution was referred to as the 10 years of catastrophe, a catastrophe in human history. Fathers and sons turning against each other, husbands and wives denouncing each other, cruelly obliterating humanity. Among the Chinese government's historical records, the documents related to Cultural Revolution are not publicly released. These documents are only accessible through National Library of China and the Beijing University Archive. But ordinary people cannot access those documents. You need a special permit issued by the authority. In order to view some of the information, you probably have to go to archives in Europe, Japan, and in the United States. You can't see them in China. It's forbidden at the moment. Famous Chinese writer Bian insists on creating a Cultural Revolution museum. He lived to the age of 101 and never see his wish fulfilled. His famous word, why do we need to establish a Cultural Revolution museum? Because Cultural Revolution is not the mistake of one person, but the responsibility of many. In order to reflect on this catastrophe, we need to take off our mask and bring out our conscience to see what each of us as individuals did during those 10 years. Only by understanding our own responsibility and repaying our own debts, big or small, can we prevent such tragedies from happening again. Only by not forgetting the past can we become the master of our own future. Very powerful words indeed, coming from this well respected Chinese writer. Everybody in China today criticized Cultural Revolution, even though most still held great respect towards Chairman Mao and his contribution to China. However, when it comes to how to reconciliate the Cultural Revolution, I hold a different opinion, an opinion that reflects my own philosophy towards human society, geopolitics, and crimes we human beings commit to each other. My experience is that human evolution did not result in strong analytical skill or critical thinking skill among the general population. That people lean towards social cohesion, instant driven decision making, adherence to authority, traces that were more beneficial for survival in early human society. Same can be said if you apply God creation theory, in which most religious texts emphasize obedience, faith, submission to divine authority over, let's say, independent questioning. This is deeply embedded in our subconscious. When a request goes out to reconcile a tragedy like the Cultural Revolution, asking individuals to reflect on their actions and crimes, I often ask, how much reflection can a person take? Because true reflection requires strong mental capacity to truly come to terms with one's own guilt. It doesn't seem to be a trait most human beings possess. For most individuals, after a certain threshold, it will either memory black hole or enter some kind of PTSD, which the latter often bring more problems to the individual and the people around him. In addition, young people are more prone to emotional reactions and impulsive behavior due to their developing maturity and also lack of life experience. Their emotions often outweigh rational thinking, making them more vulnerable to acting hastily without fully considering the long term consequences. So it is often better to calm things down, solve problems, and find ways to move on rather than forcing reconciliation when at the end they are victims as well, the victims of radical social movements. That being said, I support the idea of putting up a Cultural Revolution museum, maybe decades into the future after all the people involved pass away. I think it is important to teach future generation about the harm in which political infighting, impulsive, irrational behavior, also extreme ideology and polarization of society can bring to a country. The reason I take the time to make this video, sidestepping usual contents, is that I have find similar patterns in modern Western society, whether it is geopolitical event driven or domestic political competition driven, or simply just media trying to profit and try to feed us radical ideas and polarizing ideas. Also, inflation, lower standard of living is not helping to calm people down. So we are already witnessing different form of deterioration and polarization here in the United States, and I believe in Europe as well, which is very likely to lead to more chaos and hardship. Even here in my channel, you can often see in the comment section, there are a lot of extreme responses, even when I consider myself trying to promote rational reasoning and tolerance, whether it is towards Russia or the United States or China, or I even dare to say Israel. Maybe it is too difficult to expect forgiveness from people who just lost their families and loved ones in war and have bombs dropping on top of their heads constantly as we speak. But to all others, learn to forgive those that come before us, so one day our sons and daughters can learn to forgive us.
北京师大女附中的红卫兵宋彬彬给毛主席戴上了红卫兵的袖章。毛主席问他叫什么名字，他说叫宋彬彬。毛主席问是不是文质彬彬的彬，他说是。毛主席说要武嘛。中国共产党中央委员会关于无产阶级文化大革命的